Without CGI, we'd never have stellar hits like Avatar or Game of Thrones, and life would be boring. But it won't do any harm if we look at how these movies look without CGI, right? Today, we're diving into The Lord of Rings and how the famous trilogy would look without CGI. Want to know how they were able to nail CGI effects in that time? Or how did they manage to create Gollum? Then keep watching this video. Is Gollum real or not? Let's save you all some misery by disclosing this. If not anything, then this trilogy was able to give us some real nightmares with Gollum. Those who watched Lord of the Rings when they were kids know how much this character haunted them, but we're here to save you from all those nightmares and tell you that Gollum was not real at all. Fun fact, Gollum was just supposed to be a voiceover throughout the trilogy, but Andy Serkis, the actor who played Gollum, gave such an impressive audition that the creative team wanted Gollum to be in the film as a separate character. For this, the team had to create live-action CGI, and this was something that had never been done before. Andy Serkis had to put on this entire suit that helped the CGI team to edit out that creature later in the clips. All in all, kudos to the whole team who made us scared by Gollum. Gollum's character was a mixture of both acting and CGI, so all of his scenes had to be filmed twice. Once with all the other actors of that scene, and the second time with the actor alone to allow space for editing the character out later. Gollum was an actual work of art by all means, and in all the 3 films and countless hours of work by animators, Gollum came out as a CGI so perfectly. Imagine Gollum not being a part of Lord of the Rings, and the result is just a blank screen with no feelings at all. Want to know how the battle scenes were all filmed? Imagine being a part of a movie for which a separate AI program has been produced. Cool, right? Lord of the Rings was filmed in that time and age where CGI wasn't even all that popular. So, to completely nail the movie and to bring the illusion of that world, another program was specially created called Massive. Now, we all know how the battle scenes in the trilogy weren't like the usual ones. Like, come on, some really weird looking guys fighting with some other weird looking guys. And you can't really expect the team to film and edit those faces every time, right? So that's where Massive came in. Massive is a program that's still used in other movies, and basically this one program helps to create a scene with characters duplicated in thousands. It allows editing out anything on a massive digital front, and thus that's how the team was able to pull off the battle scenes. So without CGI, yup, the movies would have been pretty bland as we wouldn't have got the epic battle scenes. The Minas Tirith was real people. Wait, what? Yes, you heard that right, but not in its full glory. It did appear as massive as it did in the movies, all thanks to CGI, but in real life, Minas Tirith was a sculpture, which in comparison to the movie was made very small for obvious reasons. The filming of it took place in such a way that made the whole place appear really massive, and as far as the actors, they got there because of special effects, of course. The Minas Tirith is one of the many things that's real, but not completely, and had a lot of CGI involved, a perfect blend of special effects. To think CGI can have that much of an impact on a franchise. How are they able to film all the Hobbit scenes so effortlessly? Of course, CGI was used, but you'd be amazed at how they were able to pull this off so effortlessly. For instance, let's talk about the scene where Bilbo meets Gandalf. Without special effects, the Hobbits wouldn't have had their special appearances at all. For this one particular scene where Bilbo meets Gandalf, the two had to film this scene separately with extras. The sets for those scenes were specially built to mimic the effect of a hobbit and a massive-sized human interacting accurately. Even the director Peter Jackson accepted that to film the Hobbits was the most challenging part for him in these movies, and rightfully so. The Hobbits were neither children nor adults, but by looking at the films, Jackson did pull this off really well. To film the same scenes twice was very hectic and time-consuming, as the team had to put up with the size of the crops according to the characters that were being filmed. Smaug, or the most scary-looking dragon of all time. All things aside now, how were the scenes filmed with this dragon? Of course with CGI, but did you know that Benedict Cumberbatch was there too? Yep, just like Gollum, Smaug the dragon was also a work of both live-action scenes and CGI. Like Andy Serkis, Benedict Cumberbatch had to wear this whole separate costume. Before CGI, the scenes of Smaug just looked like Benedict mimicking a dragon with all his might in an all-gray costume, but after CGI, boy, that's the real deal. If you look at some of the behind-the-scenes footage of those shots, it'll be really hard for you to sit through the whole thing, because let's face it, Benedict is a real charmer in real life, and for him to play the role of this dragon, just traumatic. Legolas had CGI too? To use CGI to create illusions and landscapes and different types of imaginary characters is one thing, but to use them on real-life actors? Well, as much as we don't want to admit this, but the team used CGI even on Orlando Bloom. Like, okay, we get that these types of films require CGI more than usual, and honestly, the whole trilogy of The Lord of the Rings depended on CGI, but to use this on actors, not a very smart choice. And now you might be wondering why exactly they needed to use CGI on Bloom, just to make him appear a lot younger than what he already was at the time. That's why. Orlando Bloom is one of the finest actors in Hollywood, both in terms of looks and acting, and many agree that the production team spent a lot of time and money to add add CGI on his character, because even without the use of special effects, Legolas would have looked just fine. Like, it was Orlando Bloom after all. And to think this was the early 2000s only, Bloom was still quite young, but apparently not young enough for the role. How was the team able to make everything look so realistic? There's no doubt that the team did an incredible job at making sure that the viewers got fully engrossed into this world that they've created, and the CGI effects that were produced only for this purpose really did set the bar high for all the upcoming movies. For all the landscapes and the miniature settings for The Hobbit, certain things had to be created, while some was just the work of the blue or green screen. The director, Peter Jackson, wanted each and everything to come out naturally so that the story would get its real essence. For this purpose, first all the landscapes were sketched out on the screen, so that means that all the blue and green screens came way after that. The director and the whole CGI team spent a lot of time trying to create those landscapes on their computers, and for that they took some inspiration from the book, while some from real life places. Other than this, not all the characters were a work of CGI. Many of the creatures were created by just brilliant work done by the makeup team and practical effects artists, and of course the CGI team added their touches and made the story as brilliant and visually appealing as we've all come to know. Why is The Lord of the Rings regarded as one of the best in terms of CGI? A movie that was filmed in a time where CGI wasn't even used at all, or even if it was used, it had never been used to this potential. Lord of the Rings was ahead of its time, and there's a reason why the whole CGI team of this movie received an Oscar for their brilliant work. This movie really did set the base for all future movies that made use of CGI. Even if we watch Lord of the Rings today, it wouldn't even look like the movies were filmed in the early 2000s, thanks to the brilliant work of CGI that's been pulled off in these three films. Almost all the scenes of this trilogy have CGI in it, so without it, this massive outcome would not have come out this well. Where the trilogy consists mainly of CGI, but you can't help but appreciate the acting of all the cast members that made us believe the landscapes and all those creatures were for real. And that's it for today's video. Let us know in the comments down below which Lord of the Rings film is your favorite of them all. Before you go, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel as well. We'll see you in the next one.